Welcome to Piggypower. I will try to show you how to fit a dual. No, let's lose that voice. I'm going to show you how, hopefully, the basics of fitting a dash cam. It's pretty simple, but I'm also going to include at a later stage in the video how to wire it in permanently to your vehicle, which is quite handy, especially if you want to keep your little cigarette lighter free for charging your phone and your sat nav and other stuff. A few tips on buying one: don't buy cheap. I found anything under £15 is completely useless. Even if it says full HD on it, it's likely not. So when you get your item, again, I sort of recommend, I found easiest Amazon because you can check the reviews. Don't listen to just the one negative review because they've had a bad day. Look at all the reviews, their quality, how they fit, how long they last, etc. I've also gone for a dual lens one. I'm just going to show you how to fit a standard one at the front. The rear one, we'll just ignore that for a second. I've got that for a different reason. So when you get your dash cam, get it out. Lots of wiring, bits and bobs. Get to the camera. Now this one, it does feel good actually. It's got a metal case to it. It's pretty good as far as they go. So the first thing you want to do with your dash cam is get a decent memory card. I've gone for a SanDisk one, 16 gig, high speed as well. It's really important. Put it in, format it, put it in your camera, make sure there's some battery power in it, do some recording, look it back on a big screen on a computer, and make sure you can read number plates at a good distance. Otherwise, it's a bit pointless. If you can't, send it back, get a better one. This costs about £30. I think it's £32 or so. Memory card cost about £6. You could buy a wiring little box means that you could have open wires on this end, so you can wire it into your car. I'm going to show you later how to use this, but if you don't want to use a cigarette lighter every time in your vehicle, then you can split this apart and use the internals of that. So what we're going to do is go and find a nice place to mount it on the car, clean the windscreen of all its grease and yuckiness, and position it right. So let's go and find a nice spot on the car to put that. Right, we're inside the car, and what am I doing? I'm just getting the wiring out, just so that we can fire up the camera. And I'm going to attach the camera, which usually just slides on, quite neatly, something like that, and it should just click as it slides on, if the mount's actually any good. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to put the power cord in, plug the camera in like that. Ooh, hello. Oh, a happy little song. Right. And now I'm recording myself. Bit strange. It is actually recording. So it records as soon as it powers up, which is quite cool with these things, which is why you don't want to leave them powered up all the time. So what I'm doing now is, with it on, I can position it into a place that obviously I've got full vision. Now, something quite important here is putting it right in the middle of the dash here is a bit pointless, because you're giving yourself a blind spot in your field of view, which means you're just going to record basically you having an accident or hitting something you haven't seen. So an ideal position is somewhere up behind the the rear view mirror, which is basically something, obviously the distance, unless you could drive around low-flying aircraft a lot, it doesn't really matter up there. So somewhere up there is ideal. It's also ideal just to be able to at least see some of the screen, so that you know it's actually working every time that you turn your car on and you drive along. So I think we're going to have it somewhere there. So what I'll do is clean the area of the windscreen behind that rear view mirror now, and then I think we'll take the bit of plastic off here and stick it to the windscreen. I'm just going to take the plastic off this. Make sure you do that. I have seen people try and stick it on, but just protective plastic like that. And then what you do is, as you can see, that sucks it on. So you push that onto the windscreen, flick that forward. Anyone will have a lever like that. Some will have a twist, so you twist it, and that then sucks it onto the windscreen. Now this one's also got a locking ring. They'll often have that as well. Just locks this ball into place, so that once you've got it in position, it's not just wobbling around as you're driving. So with that rear view mirror, where I'd normally have it, let's get the camera behind there somewhere like that. Push firmly onto the windscreen, firmly, and then push the lever. Make sure, give it a good wiggle, it's not going anywhere. And then position the camera so that you've got just a little bit of your dash. Because what you'll find, so let's move that back into place, make sure it's not going to foul. It is going to foul slightly there, so I just need to move that down a bit. Keep playing with it until you're happy that it doesn't get in the way of your view. Or your adjustment of your rear view mirror. Got it right that time. Like that. Got that position. That's pretty good. And then show you this. So you can just see on the camera now, if we have it too high, you're not going to see number plates, etc., and nothing will be flying. So we just need it at an angle and we can just see straight forwards, so you can have a little bit of your dash showing. You need so that you can see both sides of the edge of your dashboard, so get your hand into a place that you might see. So we need it angled a little bit more to the right, just a little bit, like that. And then my hand is just in view one side, and my hand's in view the other side. And then we'll lock it into place. Now once you've done that, obviously you could just leave your wire just dangling down and into your cigarette lighter, which obviously could be there, could be down here somewhere. But it's kind of going to get in the way, and they give you a lot of lead, usually. So what we're going to do, we've got some trim clip levers. They look a bit like this. We're going to use them just so that we can run along the edge of the windscreen and down the pillar, the A pillar. We can run this lead, and then we can run it through some gaps behind the dash. Now you could either just tuck it down the front and along there, but we would like to try and find a route all the way under and round to this point here, so that we don't have to see this ugly wire and we don't have to worry about it. And then what we can do is basically this this turns on and off. It's got a little light on it, I expect, somewhere, possibly in the top. This turns on and off with the ignition. There we go, red light. You just can see the red light, which means it's great, but it does mean if you want to charge your phone, etc., which is pretty commonplace these days, it's now in the way. So I'm also going to show you how you can wire it into the back of this. Now it is at this point where you have an option. If you feel confident with auto wiring, then you could take this apart at this stage and wire it into your fuse box. You need to wire it into a fused output. It doesn't need very much. It's like 1 amp or 10 amps officially it takes, according to this output. Now you will need to use this adapter because you can't just send 12 volts straight down this wire, or you need to fit an adapter you can buy online, which is 12 volt to 5 volt to the I think it's a mini USB input, not micro. Or take this apart and wire it in. But you need obviously an ignition switching fused output that something other else is using, like the stereo or something, another accessory that's pretty low output, they can then wire this in. Or you now continue feeding this round to the back of your cigarette lighter. That is also usually an ignition changing output. So the back of the cigarette lighter, you could wire it in and be done, basically. But again, you've got to use this thing, so I'm going to show you how to do that now. Okie doke, so let's take this apart. So I could, as I say, just continue with running it along to the trim, have it poke up by the gear stick, and then you just push it in and take it out, or as you wish. It'd be nice though just to fit it and not have to worry about it. Now most of these come with a little screw fitting on the end, so the first thing we just do is start taking it apart. We notice that's where the little fuse actually sits inside these. Usually there's a spring, it might not pop out in this case though. And then we get a flat screwdriver, which I thought I had handy. I wonder if I can use something else. Take the ring, metal ring off the end, sorry. I wonder if it will focus, come on. So I've just taken the metal ring off the end of that. And then basically it's made of two parts, these split down the middle, so you should be able to just literally pull them apart like that. Boom! Now all you've got basically here is a converter, so it takes 12 volts in here and puts 5 volts out down there. So you can't just send 5 volts straight down there, you can't just cut it out, you're going to have to use your little board. But that's fine, it's all there ready for you to use. So all you need to do now, and in fact they've been so kind, they've even written it. Wow, they've even written on the board. Not sure if you can see that there, but basically it actually has their ground and it says VCC, or basically power. So on the board itself, you just need to solder in on that point there 12 volts ignition switching, and on that point your ground. Simple as that. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to take off these tab bits and the spring, and then onto the back of the board here I'm just going to put 12 volt switching and earth. Now I'm going to take that, potentially I could take it from the fuse box, or I could just take it from the feed for the stereo, or I could take it for the feed for the cigarette lighter or charge point. However, just check that some vehicles it does stay on that, or stays on permanently. On the 206 it doesn't, so that's useful. It just switches on and off the ignition, which is when you want it, because of course when you're driving. So that's how to do it. Not all the boards are the same, but they're pretty much the same. You're just looking for this outer bit on the cigarette lighters is always ground, and the middle bit, the pin, is power. So just follow it back and join them up. Oh yeah, just to point out, a few cable ties. If you're running the cables under here, you don't want them rubbing on stuff. So once you have fitted your wires in the place you want them, if they're not behind trims and they're going to potentially be moving, a cable tie or two wouldn't hurt, just to keep things nice and safe and in place. Obviously, if you hadn't taken it apart like I just kind of have, you could now just put back your trim, and you could just have your plug ready to go in there. But that's not what I'm going to do, because I've taken mine apart and I want to wire it in permanently. So the yellow and green is earth, it's pretty common, and the blue here is power, but all you need to do is get your multimeter and put your positive on this one, your black, your negative on that one, turn the ignition on and off just to check. The other little one is just the illumination wire for a little light that never seems to work on those. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to splice into those and fit my little board. Obviously how you do it is completely up to you, but that's how I've done mine. I've put it back in the case. I put it back in the case just because, well, that keeps all that board and those little connections protected, and then just at the top I've got positive and negative to connect. So there we are, all fitted, nice and tidy. Hopefully all you've had to use is maybe a trim remover or some sort of small clean screwdriver, and maybe a little bit of soldering work at the most if you've wired it in, otherwise it's just plugged into there. It's pretty simple to fit. I recommend it to many people. It may even bring your insurance down if you let the insurers know you've got it. I have heard of that being the case. There's one last thing I'd mention, is check your instruction manual for a certain button. Now the button I'm looking for on mine is the second one down, that one there. Now that button there, if you were to have an incident or you see an incident, you press that button, and it won't record back over it. Because these just record on a loop, so once it's filled up the SD card, it'll just start recording over the old. So if you have an instant, try to remember to press that button there. Often these have a G meter in which will save it if that happens, but that button there, for me. Check what yours is in your manual. Thanks for watching. This is Piggypower. Hope this has been helpful. Watch my other stuff. Subscribe. Click like. Tell everyone about me, because I'm helpful sometimes. Thanks. Bye.